Hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Good evening. It was a beautiful day today in New York. I hope that some of you got a chance to go outside and enjoy the weather safely, of course, but it's important that we try and get as much fresh air as we can. I know that I have not been keeping up with that, and it's not good. So I hope that everybody enjoyed the beautiful day in whatever way they could. And so today, before I show you some of the new things that we have for you, I wanted to talk a little bit about the reason why we choose to stock so many different items. So you may have noticed over the past couple of weeks that we've been doing these videos. You may have noticed a pattern, which is kind of that there is no pattern. We have lots of different types of products. And that is actually something that's really intentional on our part. And so I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit today about why variety is such an important value to us. So I've brought, just to illustrate, a small selection of, and these are actually based on the items that you guys have been buying for the past couple of days. We've been getting some orders in. And these are just different examples of things that people have actually been buying. So this is a reflection of your guys' taste, which I think is great. And obviously that's what dictates what we do as a company is what you guys are interested in. But, you know, selfishly, it's obviously also what we are interested in. So, you know, our interests, my father's interests, my husband's interests are very broad. And so kind of selfishly, it is, you know, easy for us, or it's hard for us rather to say no to something, to turn something away. If it's interesting to us, we want to have it in the store. What's up?
Yeah, you know, often when we get deliveries of inventory, especially when we go to trade show and it's natural product, I always like to find a really nice specimen and keep one for reference in my living room.
Yeah, research.
For research, and then as we order more, I'm always replacing the reference with better and better specimens. So it's nice to, yeah, a lot of the stuff we like to.
Yeah, so just to kind of point out the different things we have here. So we have a framed insect, we have a beaver skull, we have a replica fetal skull, a seashell, a keychain with a scorpion inside, and a piece of petrified wood, a small mineral, a small piece of quartz, a prism. I don't know, those, you can't really see through that, but it's an optical prism. A do-it-yourself little metal pteranodon kit for a model, and a cobra vertebra necklace. So I just wanted to kind of use that as the springboard to talk a little bit about variety and why it's so important to us. And you know, as we were saying, it's hard for us to say no to things if we're interested in them and we have broad interests, and so therefore our product selection is going to be broad as well. Also, we recognize that, as you can see here, the diversity of the types of products that we have reflects the diversity of the customers' interests that we have too. So people who come to us, they come from all different walks of life. They have all different kinds of interests and values. And so it's really important for us to be able to say that we have something for everyone. So, for example, you know, a vegetarian or a vegan might not be into having an animal skull around the house. And so for those people, we have lots of different other options. We have, you know, we have fossils, as I said, we have minerals, we have some really high quality replica items. So that's something that's, you know, important for us to have represented as well. Some people are experts and some people are just learning. For people who are, you know, younger customers or young at heart, we try and have sort of interesting games and toys and puzzles and kits and stuff for people to play with. So if your interests are more hands-on rather than just a nice decorative piece that you just put on the shelf and don't really do anything with, if you're really someone who's more active and wants to have that kind of interest, that's something that we have. With the framed insects in particular, these are great for people who are collectors. A lot of people come to us every year and buy a new framed insect. It's tradition, you know, in some people's families to get a butterfly for mom for her birthday every year or for Mother's Day. And so the collection grows. So that's, you know, a different type of customer as well, as someone who wants to collect and get more and different things and different varieties of things. So we have that. Some people are less interested in nature maybe and a little bit more interested in science. And so we have a few items like the prisms that are a little bit more science focused rather than sort of nature focused. Obviously it's part of the natural world, you know, the refraction of light and all of that, it's all connected. So there is a connective tissue between all of these things. But we like to think that they kind of represent the diverse interests and just diverse customer base that we have. So I think that that's another reason why variety is really important as well.
If it's nature inspired and it's beautiful, you know, like we talked, I think, in our first show, right? If it's nature inspired or it's beautiful, we want to have it.
Yeah,
you know?
Definitely. So we're, you know, like Mike said, our interests are just very broad. And so if it falls sort of within the natural world, and that obviously is a very big umbrella, it can have a home here. And the other reason why having variety is, I think, so important to the shopping experience at Evolution is that people, part of our mission is to inspire curiosity in people. And we really love it when people come in and they don't know what to expect. So if we were just a fossil store, for example, you would know what to expect more or less. You might have some interesting specimens, but you know you're you know, finding fossils. If you come to us and you're looking for a fossil and you stumble upon a, you know, a piece of tribal art or something like that that you think is particularly beautiful and really catches you off guard, and you talk to our sales associates and you ask questions and you learn more about it, you might walk out with a completely different sort of experience or a different product than you were originally going in for. So we really like to inspire curiosity. We like to surprise people. We like to inspire people to have, you know, a sense of wonder and discovery. And one of the ways we do that is by having really very different kinds of things that are available in the store. So you never know what's kind of like right around the corner, what's going to be in the next, on the next shelf or in the next bowl. So that's really important to us. We think it really heightens the experience of discovery, is having access to all these different things. So I wanted to talk about variety as part of the, you know, the umbrella of values that we have at Evolution, the things that really motivate us, because I know so many people have visited us over the years, and I love sharing these kinds of things with you guys. So I'm going to talk to you today about 2 new products that we have just added to our website. I'd also like to mention that these items that I'm going to be showing you today are going to have free shipping in the US with USPS postage for the next week. So until next Friday night, you'll be able to get free shipping on any of the things that I'm showing you from here on out. So please enjoy those things. So the first item that I wanted to show you today, last week we had a fossil megalodon shark tooth, for those of you who might have seen that. And this is a different type of shark tooth. This is an Otodus shark tooth. So I'm trying to get it to focus on here. So hopefully you can see that okay. So we have 3 different examples here for you guys to see. And so they're very different, obviously, from the megalodon tooth that we saw last week. They are obviously this really cool sandy brown color, whereas the megalodon teeth were very black and dark brown. So that's one difference. The size obviously is different as well. And there's some other key differences. Otodus, so this particular species is Otodus obliquus is what it's called. And it did live at the same time as megalodons, so they were, they coexisted. So it's a type of, so megalodons and Otodus are what are known as mackerel sharks. Not sure exactly what that classification is, but that is the group that they are in. So they are cousins of a sort. So they lived from the Paleocene to the Miocene epochs. So that's about 66 million years ago to 5 million years ago. So this is something that would have come into existence after the dinosaurs went extinct. So that's interesting. So it was a kind of a different form, a different life form that became, you know, the super predators of their time. And what I thought was cool about this, the name Otodus, it comes from the ancient Greek for ear-shaped tooth. And this one is particular. You can see it's a beautiful ear shape, which I think is so funny. So it's interesting that you can identify the different species by the shape of their roots here, the root of the tooth. So you can see it's a beautiful, perfect ear shape. And actually, my dad told me this the other day. I hadn't even realized this. I feel pretty silly. We're always showing this side of the tooth. You can see it's kind of like rounded, and this side is the one we're always showing, but this is actually the back of the tooth. I didn't realize that. So this is the front of the tooth, the flat part. This flat part here. So this is how it would have been in the mouth, sort of, with this side out. But we always kind of look at this side. It tends to have more interesting ridges and contrast, and it's the side that most people display. But I just thought that was a little interesting factoid. So thanks, Dad, for sharing that with me. And fossil shark teeth are really great for fossil collectors. And one of the reasons why there are so many fossil shark teeth in people's collections, as opposed to, you know, other species, is that a lot of sharks would shed their teeth throughout their lifetime and grow new ones. So it wasn't just one set of shark teeth for the entire lifetime of the animal. They would periodically shed them and grow new ones, and so that's why there were so many on the ocean floor. And shark teeth are actually really important in our understanding of you know, these species, because sharks are cartilaginous, which means they don't really have bones, so nothing really gets preserved in terms of fossilization. There's nothing really to preserve other than the teeth. Sometimes they find like some vertebrae that are able to get fossilized, but for the most part they're just cartilage, and everything just decomposes before it has a chance to fossilize. So the teeth are really the only evidence we have of these animals, and it's the only way we know anything about, you know, how they lived, what different species were around and stuff. So it's kind of so that kind of makes them even more special, because it's really the only way we have of knowing these creatures is through their teeth, which is pretty cool. And so as I mentioned, it has this beautiful ear shape, which is distinctive for Otodus teeth. Some people also refer to it as a triangular crown, so that would be how you would distinguish this tooth from another species, Otodus. It has this distinctive shape. The edges of the tooth, some sharks had serrated edges on their teeth. Megalodons in particular had serrated edges. If you think of a serrated knife, like the one you would use to chop a tomato versus a cucumber, is different. And these have smooth edges, so that's interesting. And they are extremely sharp. If you get these, they are really, really sharp. They can still absolutely slice you. So it's fascinating that it's been able to preserve that long.
We sell some the little ones as well. They're about an inch, and we handpick them. And often when I'm handpicking them, I'm poking myself with them.
Oh yeah,
that's how sharp they are.
We put our blood, sweat, and tears into this company, sometimes literally. So I have a few cuts on my hands this week from some framing I did. So yeah, they are really, really sharp. And the other feature about these teeth that is distinctive is these cusps on the root, as you can see, these little kind of extra side teeth And I suppose that was probably useful in sort of the tearing of the flesh and stuff. It gave it kind of that extra oomph because it didn't have, like I said, the serrations, but this would probably allow them to tear flesh. So those are kind of the distinctive features of an otodus tooth as opposed to other species of shark. And so the largest otodus teeth that have been found have been about 4 inches. So these are remarkably large. I would say these are probably more about 3 inches.
Yeah, those are about 3. The smaller ones we have is about 2 3/4, and the big one there is 3 inches.
Yeah, so 3 inches is pretty large for an otodus tooth because the largest one that was found was 4 inches. And that belonged to a shark that was maybe about 30 or 40 feet. As our friend Kevin informed us last week, with sharks, apparently 1 inch of tooth equals 10 feet of shark. So that's an interesting rule of thumb. And yeah, so those are the otodus teeth that I have for you. Something else about otodus teeth?
It's always important when you're looking to buy teeth like this that you really pay attention to the completeness.
Yes.
Because the price on them when we're selling, when we're purchasing, varies tremendously. If it's missing one of those little nubs, the teeth gets devalued tremendously. So when you're looking, make sure the teeth is complete. They should all have those 2 little
cusps.
So make sure you're looking for complete teeth because those are real nice.
Yeah. All right. So the next item I wanted to show you today, so we're going to do this week, we're doing 2 new items and 1 old favorite. So this is the second new item that I'm going to be showing you. This is a queen conch, or conch, depending on how you want to pronounce it. I've heard it pronounced both ways, but I guess I usually say conch. Sounds a little bit more sophisticated. So this is a queen conch. As you can see, it's quite large. It's like the size, kind of like, I'm putting it next to my head for scale. It's about the size of my head, a little less. Definitely larger than my hand, and is very beautiful. It has this really kind of orangey pink color, almost like a corally color. Very beautiful. And then it has these ridges on the inside. So it's very bumpy and dark here. The outside is like very snow white. And again, we're looking for specimens that are 100% intact. So all of the little pieces are still there. Nothing is chipped or broken. And so the species, as I said, this is a queen conch, which is Lobatus gigas. Not sure exactly what that means, but this is actually a large sea snail. So if you can imagine a snail, we're used to little tiny snails. This is a sea snail. So if you can imagine how big, the creature that lives in there is, and it would have to be extremely strong. These are really quite heavy. They're surprisingly dense. So this is a really powerful animal that lived inside these. And it's actually the largest mollusk in the Caribbean, which is where they're found mostly, sort of in the Caribbean and in the South Atlantic, like around Florida. So these are the largest mollusks in that region, which is pretty impressive. And so as I was saying, this creature that lived in here is a sea snail, and it has this really interesting anatomical feature when it was living in here, which is that it has a foot. So you kind of think of a snail just as being, you would think just has like a head and a tail, but this one actually had a foot that would protrude out from the front of the snail and had a big sickle-shaped claw, a huge claw. If you look up images of this species, you'll see it. It's a huge claw about this big, and it looks razor sharp. And what it would do is it would poke it into the seabed, into the sand, and pole vault itself over any obstacles. That's how it would move around. So imagine, something is sort of like sticking out of here, hooking onto the seafloor or rock or whatever, piece of coral, and then projecting itself over whatever is in its way. So you can imagine the strength of this creature is really, really impressive. Because like I said, this is pretty heavy. And to have to perform these feats of gymnastics is pretty cool. As I mentioned, these are found in the Caribbean, South Florida, that sort of region. The meat of the queen conch, so the snail part, is actually a really important part of the diet in those cultures. In that part of the world, they make lots of different types of things with them, lots of different dishes, and it's very important culturally as a source of meat. So that's interesting. It also, in addition to having dietary importance, it was also important in religious ceremonies for the Aztecs. So what the Aztecs would do, I'm sure many of you have seen, pictures or seen in movies and stuff. They would use this as like a blowing horn. I'm not going to attempt that because I'm not. Let's say I'm not musically inclined. But they would use these as blowing horns, and what they believed was that the sound that came from the conch blowing through it was the sound of the divine. So they believed that it was the voice of the gods. This sound that they made with it. So they used it in their religious ceremonies. And then also the Mayans would use them in ceremonies as well. They would use them specifically in rain ceremonies, and they would use them in a ritualistic combat, and they would use them as boxing gloves. So if you can imagine, they would stick their hands in here and use them as boxing gloves with their sparring partners in these ritualistic combats. And these, like I said, are really hard, really heavy, and they have these nubs. So this is really serious boxing glove, and it makes sense though. When you put your hand inside, it really fits. It almost feels like that's what it's for. It really feels very cozy. So I can see how that came about. So that is the queen conch, which is very cool and new to the website. Something to add?
Lala is asking if that's a standard size for a conch, or is it particularly large?
I think it is particularly large. You can tell the age of them by the thickness of the lip, and so I would say this one is pretty thick, and so I would imagine it's one of a full-grown adult. And the juveniles, when you look, when I was doing some research, the juvenile ones actually have a completely different shape. They use like it's just very interesting. But yeah, so this is a full-grown adult. I would say probably on the larger side. And as I said, it's really in beautiful condition. So thanks, Lolly.
We do sell other conchs, but that has got to be the biggest one that we sell.
Yes.
It is definitely on the bigger size. There are some crazy monsters out there, but that is a pretty big one.
Yeah. And yeah, so we try and get the biggest and the best whenever possible. Something else about shells?
Gina, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right, but she said that she displays her seashell collection in her kitchen.
Oh, really?
Which is interesting. We display ours in our bathroom.
Yeah, we have some in our bathroom.
A few in our bathroom, but display in the kitchen. I mean, I'm not sure where she's from. I thought that she might be from Italy because we had a few people from Italy here. But I guess if you're in the Mediterranean,
yeah,
any place you can
yeah,
it
definitely
fits.
brings that sort of beachy quality to your decor. But yeah, kitchen be a great place to put them because, as I said, they're really important food source for a lot of people. So it totally makes sense. So props to you on that. Okay, so the last item I wanted to talk to you guys about, like I said, is an old favorite, something that you have been kind enough to be buying from us in significant quantities, especially lately, and that is our t-shirts. So our Evolution t-shirts, they come in two different colors, black and unbleached cotton. So there's these two different styles, and a lot of people have been buying them for years and years. They've actually been spotted on celebrities and rock stars and stuff. We're very proud of, our logo whenever we see it out in the world. And I thought I would talk to you guys a little bit about the design of the t-shirt, because it is, you guys have been so kind to support us in buying so many of them. I thought it might be fun to talk about the design a little bit. And so it was illustrated by a man named Jan Wandelar, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, in the 18th century. So this is an old vintage illustration that we took and put on the shirt. And so this illustrator, he was known specifically for working with this very well-known for his time anatomist, and his name was Bernhard Siegfried Albinus. And what I thought was so interesting about this pairing was, if some of you have been to our old store back in Soho, we had a flag out front, and the flag said Evolution, Art and Science in Soho. And this is just such a perfect reflection of that relationship between art and science. So there was an artist who was paired up with a scientist, and that was how we got these beautiful illustrations. So this was part of a larger book. This is one illustration that was part of a larger book of anatomy. And obviously this was an emerging field, and it was extremely important for people to, for doctors and medical people to be able to understand how the human body worked. And the best way to communicate that was through really accurate illustrations and publications. So this is, when you look at old art sometimes, from medieval times or whatever, you can see the proportions are wrong. They're not sort of getting it quite right. This is one of the most accurate sort of illustrations that was developed at the time, as I said, in the 18th century. So it's pretty old, but this is when they were starting to really focus on getting the proportions right for medical reasons. And so this particular illustration was made in 1747. And as I said, with the goal really was to get the proportions right. And so they used a very interesting method of illustration. What they would do is they would have their subject, a skeleton that they would get from a medical school, let's say, have it propped up in whatever position they wanted to illustrate it in. And then they would place a net between the artist and the subject, and the net had these perfectly regular square webbing. And so what that helped them do is to be able to focus on just one part of the skeleton or the subject at a time, and to be able to get the proportions exactly on that one piece correct. And so that was really revolutionary in terms of the ways that they were doing illustrations. To try and get the proportions correct, they would put this webbing in front of the artist, so that he would be forced to make sure that each section was in proportion to what he was actually seeing. So that was really pretty new. And then the other thing that this book of illustrations did, this book of anatomy did, that was different from others of their time, is that they posed the subjects in sort of naturalistic and fantastical settings. So you would have a skeleton sort of standing up in a field of flowers with trees in the background and animals and, wildlife and stuff like that, not just, lying on a slab or something like that without any context in a void. So it really, again, is that beautiful marriage of art and science that I think really makes that book so special, that artist and that anatomist, their work together, and that ultimately inspired us to select this particular image for our t-shirts. So as I mentioned, there's two different colors, black and unbleached cotton. The unbleached cotton really is not white. It's not pure white. It's almost like a bone color, which is particularly appropriate for us. And it's 100% pre-shrunk cotton. A lot of people ask us if it'll shrink. So it shouldn't change very much. It should stay true to size, which is good. And they are available, I think, in size child small, which I think is like a 10 to 12. size, and all the way up to triple XL. So we have a large range of sizes, 2 different colors, and it's the company that prints these is located in New York City. So again, when you support Evolution, you're also supporting a whole network of other small businesses, other local businesses, which is great. And we've been very lucky to work with them for, I don't know, I think that they've always printed our shirts. I'm not sure. I'd have to ask my dad, but probably about 20 years. So that's been great. And they're just a little bit about them. They're a silkscreen printing shop on the Lower East Side. And they're known for really doing very good quality work. As you can see, this is not a sort of easy shirt to make. It has an enormous amount of detail because we wanted to get the etchings, you know, the feeling of the etching. So it's an enormous amount of detail. So it's not really something that you can just slap on a t-shirt. It takes a certain amount of finesse. And they've been able to work with us and to really get it right, and that's been great. And they also have a really wonderful internship program with the New York City public schools in their area. And so they reach out to the students, and they have the students come in and they do like an internship with them where they teach them skills, they teach them job skills, they teach them, they support local artists. They do different exhibitions. They're kind of like a screen printing workshop and a gallery at the same time. So they do a lot of really good work in the community. So it's been our pleasure to work with them for all these many years. So as I said, we are going to be offering free shipping on these items, the shell, the t-shirts, and the teeth for the next week. So you can definitely check those out, and we'll have those on our website for you guys to check out. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been really fun getting to know you guys and interacting with you in this way. If there's anything else in particular that you would like us to feature, please feel free to comment and give us some suggestions. And otherwise, stay safe, take care of each other, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, bye.